We are coming live from Ngcobo. You'll remember that yesterday there was a kind of a disaster here whereby a wall from this shop just fell down over people that were selling stuff here on the street. I understand that 5 people perished here under the debris that were coming out of this incident. But I'm joined by the Premier of the Eastern Cape, Oscar Mabuyane, just to get more information on what actually happened. But first of all, I must say that this is very shocking here.
Yes, absolutely shocking. Very, very sad. It's one of those incidences that is difficult to comprehend, but unfortunately it has happened. Firstly, we would want to take the opportunity to extend our word of condolences to the family that have lost the loved ones. People who just came to town for shopping. Yes, I hear that also there was an employee from the spa who was on a lunch going back to work, and unfortunately she came across this incident. So far the preliminary report indicates that we have lost 5 lives. 2 died immediately or instantly here. The other 3 died in hospital here at All Saints. 14 people were admitted. 5 of those people remain in hospital in Mthatha, Nelson Mandela Academic Hospital. The 9 has been discharged. So at least the number of those who were in hospital is quite promising that they are out of hospital. We really wish all of them speedy recovery on this unfortunate incident. Police are still working with all the team to make sure that we identify all bodies. We would definitely make a call to people who had their own people in town yesterday, because some it looks like it's going to be difficult to easily identify them. But 3 has been identified, but there's 2 that has not yet been identified, that we are making a call that people can come and look for that. Department of Labour is here to do its own inspection and give us that technical assessment that is required. So municipality is part of that. The disaster teams are here. So MEC Public Works is here with her team. MEC for Health, she's here as well. So we have got a joint collaborative approach to ensure that we arrest this problem. And it's a kind of a lesson. We are learning it through a hard way to almost all our towns. These are old buildings. You can see these buildings were established long time. You can look at the infrastructure, the material used here. So municipalities must strengthen up their bylaws to ensure that they do make ongoing assessment of buildings in their towns to avoid incidences of this nature. We should not having this. This is for second time here. It's not for the first time. It happened here at some point. People died, and it's continuous. And I can tell you, these buildings were built probably when there were no rules to approve the buildings in a town, when these towns were just village towns, so to speak. So a lot needs to be done from a technical point of view, from an engineering point of view, to ensure that there's a compliance with the current laws of the country.
Don't you think maybe an action ought to be taken against those who are doing business out of these old buildings here?
No, definitely. But in a case like this, you don't want to jump and start creating or making unfortunate statements. The investigation is going to help us. As I've said, the investigation is starting. The teams are working together. They've got to go back to their archives, because this is an old building, to look at the approved structure of this building and work it back and bring us that report, so that police can begin to look at it, whether can you really decide from an inquest into a culpable homicide, things like those. But surely people must take responsibility. Someone, somewhere, somehow, the person must take responsibility in incidences of this nature. So we should not be having this. We're just making a call to everyone who's actually doing business in towns. And as we've been saying, a lot of our towns have got buildings that are derelict and buildings that are not well looked after. So we've got to look at those dilapidating buildings, do an assessment to make sure that that is corrected. And it's unfortunate really that we've lost lives in a very unfortunate situation like this. People who were not sick, people who just came to town. A message goes back to say people died because the building has actually fallen over them. It's a very, very unfortunate. And old people are coming into town. Remember, people now must come to town to get their grants, and that tells you would have a traffic of old people who will always be around town to look for their grants, etc. So these are things that makes us to be agile in terms of rural development and get services out of these towns to remove these congestions out of towns. People get services in their own villages where they reside.